Announcing the commencement of the first purge.
I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Just remember all the good the purge does.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is July 25th, 2018. I'm Eric. I'm here at frankmadish.com, and as you can see, I have an article he has written about the myth of authority. And then over here at shtfplan.com, I have one up for Max Slavo. Regulation could cause global economic collapse. I'm going to go ahead and get into this one first, and then move on to the next. So, as most of you probably know, government doesn't do a whole lot well. Okay, it's terrible at everything it does, and they have the most incompetent people placed in some key positions. So, whenever government interferes in the economy, it has long been something anyone who knows even an iota about economics has warned about. We do not want government in economics. We want the market to be wide open and free, and without too many unnecessary regulations. Obviously, we don't want big corporations polluting the air, the water, or the ground. However, we also don't want them to be so stifled by regulations that their costs end up skyrocketing as a result, and then of course that gets passed on to the consumer. Alright, now regulations could cause oil prices to skyrocket and trigger a global economic collapse. Oil prices could skyrocket to over $200 per barrel, according to a report by RT. A research paper from economist and oil market watcher Philip K. Verlager predicts that if this happens, a worldwide economic collapse of apocalyptic proportions would occur. According to the paper, there could be a shortage of low-sulfur diesel fuel in 2020 as a result of regulations from the International Maritime Organization, or IMC, aimed at cutting sulfur emissions. The regulations due to take effect at the start of 2020 lower the allowed concentration of sulfur in maritime fuels from 3.5% to just 0.5%. The only way to prevent this would be for the people to stop fabricating that anyone has a right, or the only way to prevent this would be for people to stop fabricating that anyone has any authority to regulate or control them in any way. And I agree with that. You should not be believing such nonsense. Which is why I have these two particular articles up. However, since humanity isn't ready to give up the illusion of control, it looks like an economic collapse is in our near future. The new regulations have already caused many to begin to scramble for low sulfur options. But unfortunately, the current global refining capacity may not be able to churn out enough low sulfur fuels to allow for a smooth transition from high sulfur fuels by the world's shipping fleet. Since people assume that others have the right to dictate rules to them, this would usher in an economic breakdown the likes of which we have never seen. RT reported that the shipping industry accounts for about 5% of total global oil demand. Coupled with the fact that most ships burn heavy fuel oil that is high in sulfur, switching over 5% of total demand to low sulfur diesel and gasoline, a distillate similar to diesel, is a massive shift that should not be considered irrelevant. Other than disobey the authorities, ship owners will have a few options. They could install expensive scrubbers to remove the sulfur, switch to low sulfur fuels such as diesel or gasoline, or switch over to LNG. Scrubbers and LNG are generally thought to be the most expensive options, requiring capital outlays to overhaul entire fleets. These increased costs will be passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices, and with there being so slowing of the trade war between, or I think they meant to put no slowing. With there being no slowing of the trade war between the United States and China, the final nails could be going in the coffin of the global economy. By 2020, diesel production will need to rise by at least 7%, according to Philip K. Verliger. That increase in production is on top of the 3% increase needed for road transport and other uses. All of it will need to be low sulfur if you believe someone has a right to rule, and others have an obligation to obey, which you do not. No one has a right to rule over you, and you have no actual obligation to obey. It is not clear that the greater volumes can be produced, Voliger wrote in his paper. Instead, very large price hikes may be required to suppress non-maritime use. Voliger does not mince words either. As the rules take effect in 2020, oil prices will spike to $160 per barrel or higher. In quotes, economic activity will slow. In some places, grind to a halt. Food costs will climb as farmers, unable to pay for fuel, reduce plantings. Delivery of goods and materials to factories and stores will slow or stop. He urges vehicle sales will plummet, especially those of gas-guzzling sports utility vehicles. One or more major U.S. automaker will face bankruptcy, even closure. Housing foreclosures will surge in the United States, Europe, and other parts of the world. Millions will join the ranks of the unemployed as they did in 2008. And it is this reason right here that we are in the mess that we're in the first place. The belief in authority. Authority is a lot like religion, people. In fact, it is religion. It shares all the same symptoms. When faced with uncomfortable information that debunks or clashes with your world idea. So here we go. Let me get this clear from the onset. No one can claim legal authority over another without their consent. With that in mind, it seems strange that merely by the involuntary act of birth we are expected to accept the legitimacy of those who hold dominion over us. Democracy is a collective decision, the will of the people coming together to build upon the noble aims of a fair society. Yet, despite the good intentions, authoritarians, plutocrats, technocrats, and those of superior rank and royal blood still rule the world. The playing field isn't level. It's an insurmountable peak, for the game is fixed. Both sides are cheats, and the true results remain hidden from public gaze. The political party that promises to represent its citizens is lying through its teeth. We're nothing, you, I, and another 6 or so billion others on this planet. Any form of resistance provides little more than conundrum, intriguing problems for the experts to figure out in the years to come. Kill empathy, emotion, any true sense of identity, the concept of family, friendship, beyond mere social expectation, love, hate, life itself. That's what's coming over the horizon, and to be brutally honest, we, the shepherd's flock, the groveling, penny-pinching masses, who dare not peek our heads above the parapet, deserve everything that's coming to us. The price of freedom is far too high to give up on all this crap. The internet, smart devices, music, movies, celebrity gossip, culinary delights from around the world, vacations to far-off climes, sharing photos and handy tips, the illusion of friendship, and the instant gratification of synthetic sexuality. For many, freedom is a misnomer. Exchanging everything from liberty offers little comfort for the brave. The law of the jungle, the brutal conquering the weak, the loneliness and the boredom of a lifetime of substance spent scraping away at the soil of, or for a bite to eat. There's no point in choosing sides. Everyone in power is connected, if not through bloodline, then through shared vision. The rest are fools, duped by the promise that anyone can make it to the top. Of course, the greedy are cheap. They'd rather sell their soul to sit on the top of a heap of shit than keep shoveling. The remainder are perhaps the most gullible in all history. We who still have hope that by some miraculous turn of luck, humanity will shine through and win in the end. It won't, and it never has. For every example of collective responsibility has produced a figurehead, and a corrupted one at that. Namely, those with enough guile and cunning, the greatest liars of all time, who've cast themselves heroes and heroines of history, fighting for a better life for all. When are we gonna snap out of it? I'm sure long after I'm dead, if ever. It's such a shame. I knew all this as a child. My mother, neighbors, teachers, all would accuse me of having a problem with authority. I do. With all my heart, I'd rather die senselessly in a world of absolute true freedom, unshackled by the self-proclaimed interests of crony capitalists and corrupt dictators that martyred for their fashionable cause, or than be martyred for their fashionable cause. As far as I or any of my generation are concerned, we've lived out lives long enough to know that the shit hits the fan, or know if the shit hits the fan. We'd had our turn. Some people wish they could be young again. I'm not one of them. If anything, I pity future generations. Things are going from sad or bad to worse, and all they'll have to inherit are our mistakes. The worst of all being our willing subjugation to the tyrannical indiscretions of a brutal social order. As long as those who enforce the rule of conduct, administer laws and cultural traditions, we're destined to obey the illusionary power of authority. No matter how much the individual resists, eventually their compatriots will betray them for the chance to survive the devastation of humanity. With much of the population decimated through various means, infertility, martial law, tainted food and water, only the loyalist slaves will remain. Yet, even they'll be punished for their collusion, destined to live as mindless drones, chemically altered and psychologically programmed to be happy with their lot. Shift workers afforded brief rest in coffin-sized cubicies working to 0-hour contracts in unfit conditions, delicately following the orders of an artificial intelligence that, much like its creator, is slowly learning to despise the human race. The problem is that too many of us fear the alternative, a perpetual state of anarchy. Humanity lacks faith in itself and dreads its inevitable descent into madness should the hierarchy collapse. It's human instinct, after all, or rather reptilian, the survival programming of our lower brain. The myth of authority is a ruse. A ferocious beast dressed in the fineries of wealth, cloaked under a guise of respectability. Our race persists in its primitive rage. Both master and servant live by the same fundamental rights. The law of the jungle is alive and well. The strong wield power over the weak, and those who control our natural resources will continue to hold sway over all others. If you were to abandon your belief in authority en masse and suddenly, this all could be ended. It could all be ended. It may not be pleasant. A lot of people may get hurt, will get hurt. But people have sacrificed for much, much less than true, actual freedom from somebody who claims ownership over them. And then you don't believe me. You don't believe me that you are not under the ownership of someone else. You need to do some work. You need to do some studying. Because I am absolutely telling you the truth. Anyway, I thought I would share this with you all. I hope every one of you have a great, great day. Till next time. Kill the state before the state kills you.
I keep my head up, and you will end this.
I'm just getting warmed up. This is Von Clausewitz shit. Total fucking war. I'm gonna pull the whole thing down. I'm gonna bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's gonna be biblical.